It was an ordinary day on Earth. The sun shone brightly, birds chirped, and the world went about its daily business. People were working, laughing, and living their lives, blissfully unaware that everything was about to change. Up in space, however, an alien empire was preparing for an invasion. The Zeltrax Dominion, an advanced alien species, had watched Earth from afar for years. They had studied humanity, observing their rise from primitive tools to advanced technology. The Dominion believed that humans were weak, inferior creatures, barely worthy of notice. They had conquered countless planets before, and to them, Earth seemed like an easy target. After all, how could a species that still fought wars with weapons made of metal possibly stand against a galactic power like the Zeltrax Dominion? Their fleet arrived in Earth's orbit with stunning precision. Massive ships, glowing with strange energy, hovered ominously above the planet. The sheer size and power of the Zeltrax fleet were awe-inspiring. Dozens of ships, each one capable of annihilating entire cities, encircled Earth, casting long shadows over the world below. The aliens were confident, almost smug. They had faced no resistance in their past conquests, and they expected this to be no different. The admiral of the Zeltrax fleet stood on the bridge of his command ship, looking out at Earth through a vast window. He was a tall figure, covered in dark, metallic armor, his glowing eyes scanning the planet below. With a cold, almost bored expression, he turned to his officers and spoke, his voice dripping with arrogance. "This will be over in an hour," he said, chuckling softly. "Pathetic creatures. They don't even know what's coming." The officers around him nodded in agreement, some even laughing. They were certain of their victory. Earth had no chance against them. The Dominion had weapons far more advanced than anything humans could dream of, and their technology was light years ahead. To the Zeltrax, humanity was nothing more than a footnote in the universe, a species too primitive to fight back. Back on Earth, the news spread like wildfire. People stared at their screens in disbelief as reports came in about the alien fleet. Fear began to take hold of the world. Government officials scrambled to respond, but the panic was already spreading. News anchors, their faces grim, spoke urgently into the camera. In an unprecedented event, a fleet of alien ships has appeared above Earth. Experts believe these beings possess technology far beyond our own. What does this mean for humanity? The news stations played footage of the alien ships, their sleek forms cutting through the sky like knives. The camera zoomed in on the terrifying size of the fleet, and a chill ran down the spines of everyone watching. Across the globe, people were glued to their screens. In cities, homes, and offices, people were paralyzed with fear. There was no way to prepare for something like this. For the first time in history, Earth was facing an existential threat, and no one knew what to do. The question on everyone's lips was simple: what will happen to us? In the streets, people gathered around their phones, watching the news unfold. A sense of helplessness filled the air. Some whispered in fear, others prayed, and a few tried to hold on to hope. But deep down, everyone knew this was different. They had heard of alien encounters before, but this felt different. This was an invasion. People in government buildings around the world were scrambling to react. Military officials, normally calm and composed, were now tense, whispering hurried instructions into phones and radios. Governments issued emergency broadcasts, telling citizens to stay indoors and avoid any confrontation with the alien ships. They warned that the situation was dire and that no one was safe. As panic spread, a sense of confusion began to set in. Earth had faced wars, conflicts, and disasters before, but this felt like something else entirely. The aliens were powerful, undoubtedly. Their ships were bigger than anything humanity had ever seen, and their technology was incomprehensible. No one knew how to stop them. Yet, amid the fear and confusion, there were some who refused to give in. There were those who believed that humanity was not as helpless as it seemed. Military leaders, scientists, and ordinary citizens began to rally together. They knew the odds were stacked against them, but they weren't willing to give up without a fight. The first response came from Earth's military forces. Fighters, bombers, and missile systems were quickly deployed, though many knew that their weapons stood little chance against the alien ships. Still, they had to try. The human spirit, it seemed, was not so easily crushed. As the first waves of Earth's fighters rushed into the sky, they were immediately met by a barrage of alien fire. The Zeltrax ships unleashed energy beams that sliced through the sky, destroying anything that came close to them. Fighters were torn apart mid-air, and missiles were obliterated before they could even reach their targets. It was clear that humans were outmatched. On the ground, people watched helplessly as their military forces were decimated. The alien fleet moved with terrifying efficiency, obliterating anything that posed a threat. The humans fought bravely, but it was like trying to stop a tidal wave with a bucket. Every attempt was met with failure. Back in the Zeltrax fleet, the Admiral watched the destruction unfold below. He showed no emotion, no sense of surprise. His fleet had been designed for this. The invasion was going exactly as he had expected. The humans, with their primitive technology, were no match for the might of the Zeltrax Dominion. "They'll be gone within hours," the Admiral said to his officers. "This is a formality, nothing more." But as the Zeltrax fleet continued its assault, something unexpected began to happen. As the humans watched their defenses fail, a flicker of defiance sparked in their hearts. They weren't just going to give up. They couldn't. Across the world, people began to unite in ways they never had before. Governments set aside differences, and nations rallied together in the face of the alien threat. Scientists worked with military leaders, engineers raced to develop new technologies, and ordinary people volunteered to fight, knowing they had little chance of survival. The Zeltrax Dominion might have underestimated humanity, but they had no idea what they were truly up against. Earth was not as defenseless as they thought. Humanity had a power they had never encountered before: resilience. While the alien fleet continued to rain destruction on Earth, something was stirring among the humans. They were beginning to fight back, and in that fight, they would discover just how far they were willing to go to protect their world. The story had just begun, and the first chapter was full of terror and despair. But deep down, Earth's inhabitants knew one thing for sure: this was not going to be easy for the invaders. No, it would be the beginning of something far bigger. The Zeltrax might have come thinking Earth would fall in hours, but they had underestimated one thing: the spirit of humanity. And that would be their greatest mistake. The Zeltrax Dominion had never faced anything like this before. Their first strike was swift and brutal, a calculated move designed to crush humanity's defenses before they had a chance to react. From their massive ships high in Earth's orbit, they unleashed their first orbital bombardment. The sky was filled with blazing energy beams, raining down on the planet. Cities that had once stood proud and tall were reduced to rubble. The shockwaves tore through buildings, sending debris flying in every direction. Major cities, including New York, Paris, and Tokyo, took the brunt of the assault. Humanity was caught off guard. In the face of such overwhelming power, it seemed as though there was no hope. People fled in panic as the bombs rained down. The air was thick with dust and smoke, and the screams of the terrified filled the streets. It was a nightmare, and it seemed like the beginning of the end. But what the Zeltrax Dominion didn't anticipate was the resilience of the human spirit. Beneath the surface of the Earth, away from the chaos above, humanity had prepared for a day like this. For years, secret military operations had been developing underground bunkers, safe havens built deep within the Earth's crust. These bunkers were designed to withstand the worst possible attacks, and now they were humanity's last hope. As the alien bombardment continued, the hidden countermeasures beneath the surface came to life. Massive underground facilities, equipped with state-of-the-art technology, activated their defense systems. Energy shields rose around critical zones, and the long-hidden weaponry systems began to hum with life. Humanity had not been as defenseless as the Zeltrax had assumed. The first sign of retaliation came when a fleet of cloaked fighter jets shot out from secret launch stations hidden in the mountains and remote locations around the world. These advanced fighters were equipped with weapons and shields far beyond anything the aliens had anticipated. As the alien ships continued their bombardment, the human jets swooped in from the sky with deadly precision. At the same time, the Earth's hidden kinetic bombardment cannons, positioned on the far side of the planet and deep in the oceans, began their strike. These cannons fired massive projectiles at incredible speeds, piercing the hulls of the alien ships. The Zeltrax fleet, still in the middle of their destructive assault, suddenly found themselves under attack from an enemy they had not expected. Earth had been hiding weapons that could match the might of their technology. The first few alien ships were hit hard, their shields barely holding against the barrage. Explosions erupted in space as debris from the destroyed ships scattered across the sky. The Zeltrax fleet, once so confident in their superiority, was now stunned by the sudden counterattack. They had underestimated humanity. In the midst of the chaos, a human commander stood at the heart of Earth's military operations. General William Harris, a seasoned veteran of countless battles, watched the screens before him as the counterattack unfolded. His face was stern, but beneath it lay a fierce determination. He knew the odds were still stacked against them, but this was their moment. The moment to prove to the aliens that humanity would never back down. He spoke to his team, his voice calm but filled with an intensity that resonated with everyone in the room. They thought this would be easy. They haven't seen what humans can do when pushed. His words echoed through the command center as humanity's retaliatory forces hit the alien fleet with everything they had. Back in space, the alien commanders were in a state of shock. The sensors on their ships were flashing red, indicating massive damage to their fleet. Their most advanced warships, which had once been considered invincible, were now riddled with holes, their systems failing one by one. The Zeltrax fleet was beginning to lose control, and they couldn't understand how a primitive species like humanity had pulled this off. "How is this possible?" one of the alien commanders muttered, his voice filled with disbelief. Their technology was supposed to be inferior. How are they fighting back like this? The admiral, who had once been so confident in their victory, clenched his fists in frustration. The situation was rapidly spiraling out of control. Their fleet had been damaged, and the human fighters were showing no signs of slowing down. The Zeltrax had no choice but to respond, but the sudden appearance of Earth's advanced weapons had thrown them off balance. They were no longer in the driver's seat. Now, humanity had the upper hand. Despite the initial shock, the Zeltrax quickly began to retaliate. They fired their own weapons back at the Earth, but their attacks no longer had the same precision. Their ships were damaged, and their tactics were no longer as effective. The human defenses, once thought to be fragile and weak, had proven to be far more formidable than the aliens had anticipated. On Earth, the battle between the invaders and humanity raged on. The underground bunkers continued to pump out counterstrikes, while the fighter jets darted through the air, dodging incoming laser beams and launching their own devastating missiles at the alien ships. The human forces worked with a unity and determination that the aliens had never seen before. They fought not just for survival, but for the future of their species. The battle was not without its costs. Several human pilots were lost as they engaged in close combat with the alien ships, their fighters being torn apart by the aliens' superior technology. But even in the face of loss, humanity's resolve did not waver. Every death only fueled their determination to protect Earth and show the Zeltrax that they were not as weak as they thought. One particular pilot, Lieutenant Sarah Dawson, flew her fighter jet directly into the heart of the alien fleet. Her mission was clear: disable the enemy's command ship. Dodging fire and weaving through the chaos, she closed in on her target. With a final, desperate push, she launched a missile directly at the Zeltrax flagship. The missile tore through the ship's defenses, sending the flagship into a fiery spiral toward the planet below. As Sarah's fighter was caught in the explosion, the world watched in silence. She had given her life for the cause, but her sacrifice was not in vain. The Zeltrax flagship had been destroyed, and for the first time since the invasion began, the aliens realized that humans were not the weak creatures they had assumed. The battle raged on, but the tide had turned. Humanity had struck back with a force and unity the Zeltrax had never expected. The alien fleet, once so confident in its victory, now found itself fighting for survival. On Earth, people cheered as news spread of the first major victory against the invaders. Governments, military leaders, and ordinary citizens all felt a sense of pride and hope. They were not going to be easily defeated. They were not going to fall without a fight. And so, as the world braced for the next wave of the conflict, one thing was certain. Humanity had shown the Zeltrax dominion that no matter how advanced their technology, no matter how powerful their fleet, they had made one fatal mistake. They had underestimated the strength of the human spirit. And that would be the turning point in the war for Earth's survival. As the battle raged on in Earth's orbit and across the skies, the Zeltrax dominion began to realize that humans were no ordinary species. At first, they had seen them as weak, primitive, and easy to conquer, but now, the tide was beginning to shift. Humanity's resilience was becoming impossible to ignore. The aliens, having bombarded Earth with overwhelming force, soon learned that the planet's true power lay not just in its advanced technology, but in the humans who had learned to survive on a harsh and unforgiving world. Earth was, as many called it, a death world, and humanity's greatest strength came from their ability to adapt, to thrive, and to fight in the most extreme conditions. On the ground, the humans displayed a level of resourcefulness and determination that astounded their alien invaders. The Zeltrax had expected a traditional war, one fought in open fields and on flat battlefields. What they did not expect were the guerrilla tactics of human soldiers who fought with a fierce, survival-driven mentality. The cities had been bombed and destroyed. The forests and mountains were now battlegrounds, and the urban ruins became death traps for any alien soldier who underestimated the humans' ingenuity. The Zeltrax soldiers, equipped with advanced weapons and armor, were accustomed to fighting on technologically superior battlefields. They were trained to dominate in open spaces where they could use their overwhelming firepower to crush their enemies quickly. But on Earth, they found themselves in unfamiliar terrain, dense jungles, rocky mountains, and crumbling cities, places where their superior technology didn't always guarantee victory. In the dense forests, human soldiers used the natural environment to their advantage. They blended into the trees, setting traps and ambushes for the unsuspecting alien patrols. The humans didn't fight like the Zeltrax did. They fought like creatures who had spent centuries learning how to survive in the most hostile environments. Earth's soldiers were masters of hit-and-run tactics, using their knowledge of the land to outmaneuver the alien invaders. The Zeltrax soldiers were stunned. They quickly realized that every step they took on Earth could be their last. They were used to hunting their prey, but now they were the ones being hunted. The jungles, mountains, and even the ruins of human cities had become their worst enemies. Aliens who had once been confident in their ability to crush any foe were now fearful, as they were constantly attacked by humans who seemed to know the terrain better than they did. One alien soldier, a young officer named Vrex, was sent into the urban ruins of a city to secure the area and eliminate any remaining human resistance. He had been briefed about humanity's ability to fight in the terrain, but nothing could have prepared him for the horrors he would face in the rubble of what had once been a thriving metropolis. As Vrex and his squad moved cautiously through the city, the eerie silence of the ruined streets surrounded them. Their footsteps echoed in the emptiness, and every corner felt like it could hide a potential threat. Suddenly, there was a flash of movement from an upper floor of a collapsed building. The aliens raised their weapons, but before they could react, a series of explosive devices detonated around them, sending them scrambling for cover. Vrex barely avoided a sniper's shot, the bullet whizzing past his helmet. He turned to see several of his soldiers go down in the initial blast. The humans were everywhere, attacking from multiple directions, using their environment as both a weapon and a shield. "This city is a death trap," Vrex muttered under his breath. "They've turned it into a labyrinth." The humans had done the unthinkable. They had turned their own ruined world into a weapon against the aliens. From the shadows, human soldiers fought not just to kill, but to survive, making every move a calculated risk. They knew that victory in this war wasn't about sheer firepower. It was about outsmarting their enemies and adapting to the ever-changing battlefield. Vrex's squad was forced into retreat after just a few hours of combat. They had lost too many men, and the city had become a death sentence for anyone who ventured too deep. The humans, hiding in the ruins, seemed to be everywhere, always one step ahead. It became clear that no matter how advanced their technology was, they would not easily be able to defeat this determined species. The humans didn't just fight to win. They fought to survive. This motto became the rallying cry for every soldier who picked up a weapon, every civilian who took up arms to protect their family, and every person who had nothing left to lose. They had faced extinction before and come out on top, and they were not going to let an alien invasion be their undoing. Meanwhile, across the globe, the human resistance was spreading. Small groups of soldiers and civilians banded together to fight back, using their knowledge of the land to sabotage the alien forces and strike at their weak points. They didn't have the advanced technology the Zeltrax had, but they had something even more dangerous: determination and the will to survive. General Harris, the human commander, knew that humanity's greatest strength was their ability to adapt. Every defeat the aliens suffered, every trap that claimed their soldiers, made them more desperate. The humans, on the other hand, were learning, evolving, and fighting smarter. They didn't need to win every battle. They just needed to survive long enough to turn the tide in their favor. One day, as the battle continued, a report came in from a squad of soldiers stationed in the mountains. The alien forces had begun to retreat from certain sectors, and human fighters were gaining ground in the jungle regions. It was a small victory, but it meant everything. It was proof that the invaders weren't invincible. Earth's defenders had learned to fight on their terms. Back at the command center, General Harris stood before his team, watching the latest reports come in. He was tired, bone-weary from days of endless conflict, but his eyes burned with the fire of determination. He turned to his officers and spoke with quiet authority. "They thought we were weak. They thought we'd crumble under their power," he said. "But they've learned the hard way that humans don't just fight to win. We fight to survive." As the soldiers across the globe continued their battle, it was clear that humanity had found its strength, not in their technology or their weapons, but in their unwavering will to survive. The Zeltrax had made one critical mistake. They had underestimated the resilience of Earth's inhabitants, and that would prove to be their downfall. The Zeltrax dominion was in full retreat, and the unexpected was unfolding before their very eyes. For weeks, they had underestimated Earth's defenders, thinking of them as primitive beings with no chance against their superior technology. But now, as their forces were systematically being wiped out, the aliens were forced to confront a terrifying truth. Humanity had weapons they couldn't comprehend, and more shockingly, some of those weapons were of alien origin. The humans had never openly revealed the full extent of their technological capabilities, and for good reason. The Zeltrax had assumed that humanity's advanced tech was just a natural development from their own intelligence. However, the truth was far more shocking. The humans had been quietly studying the wreckage of alien ships that had crash-landed on Earth over the years, scavenging whatever they could from the wrecks. With time, they had reverse-engineered the alien technology, unlocking secrets that were far beyond anything they could have ever imagined. This discovery had been kept a closely guarded secret, known only to the highest ranks of the human military. The results of this reverse engineering had led to the development of some of the most powerful and sophisticated weapons in the galaxy. It was these very weapons that the aliens now faced, and they were about to realize the consequences of underestimating humanity. It started with the drones. The first wave of AI-controlled drones was deployed with surgical precision, infiltrating the alien fleet and targeting weak points. These drones were designed to think and react with a level of intelligence that the Zeltrax had never encountered before. Their agility and speed were unmatched, and they struck with deadly accuracy. The drones had been outfitted with cloaking devices, rendering them invisible to the alien sensors until it was far too late. The Zeltrax had never experienced an enemy they couldn't see coming. One by one, their ships were taken out by these silent, ghost-like attackers. The alien forces scrambled to adjust their tactics, but it was already too late. The humans had the upper hand. As the drones decimated the alien fleet, the next phase of humanity's hidden arsenal was revealed. Stealth spaceships. These ships were a product of decades of research and reverse engineering, capable of traveling undetected by the most advanced alien radar systems. The stealth ships moved with incredible speed, launching precise attacks from unimaginable distances. Each strike hit its target with flawless accuracy, and the Zeltrax had no way to counter the attacks. The alien fleet, once so confident and powerful, was now in disarray. Ships that had once been impervious to attack were now crumbling under the onslaught. Panic began to spread throughout the alien ranks as they lost ship after ship. The tables had turned, and the invaders were no longer the predators. They were the prey. Every alien soldier knew it, but no one had an answer. No one knew how to stop the humans. But the most devastating revelation was still to come. The humans, having learned from their previous victories, had been quietly developing one final weapon: orbital railguns. These massive weapons, capable of firing projectiles at speeds near the speed of light, had the power to penetrate even the toughest alien shields. The railguns were stationed in orbit, hidden from view, and when they were finally unleashed, the Zeltrax had no defense. The first shot was fired in the dead of night, and within moments, a massive alien warship was obliterated, reduced to nothing but debris. The humans had anticipated this, knowing that the aliens would be overconfident in their defense systems. The orbital railguns had been designed specifically to take down massive ships in a single shot, and they did so with terrifying efficiency. The Zeltrax admiral, watching the destruction unfold, couldn't believe what was happening. He had watched as his fleet was systematically dismantled, piece by weapons he had never seen before. These weren't just humans. They were something far worse. They were monsters, armed with technology that no one had ever expected them to possess. In a last-ditch attempt to salvage his command, the alien admiral sent a final transmission to his superiors, his voice tinged with disbelief and panic. "We underestimated them," he said, his voice shaking. These monsters aren't weak. There's something else entirely. These humans, they've taken our tech, turned it against us, and now we're losing everything." As his transmission was broadcast across the alien fleet, the Zeltrax forces began to realize the full scope of the disaster. The humans had not only adapted, but they had taken their invaders' technology and made it their own, pushing the limits of what was possible. They had become the true apex predators of the galaxy. In the midst of the chaos, General Harris, the human commander, stood in his command center, staring at the screen that displayed the dwindling number of alien ships. His face was grim, but there was a hint of pride in his eyes. He knew that this was just the beginning. The war was far from over, but the humans had made their mark. They had shown the galaxy that they were no longer the helpless, primitive species the Zeltrax had once thought them to be. The battle had shifted in their favor, and there was no turning back. "They thought they could wipe us out," General Harris muttered to himself. "But they didn't count on one thing. We don't give up. We fight, we survive, and we win." As the last of the alien ships retreated into the depths of space, the humans knew that they had sent a message to the universe. Earth was not to be underestimated. The Zeltrax had made the mistake of underestimating humanity, and that mistake would cost them everything. The battle was far from over, but humanity had proven that when pushed to the edge, they would rise up and fight back. The game had changed, and the aliens would have to come to terms with the fact that they were no longer the top of the food chain. Earth had proven itself to be a force to be reckoned with. The final battle between humanity and the Zeltrax Dominion reached its peak, and it was clear that the tide had turned. What had started as an overwhelming invasion by one of the galaxy's most powerful empires was now a desperate retreat. The Zeltrax forces, who had once arrogantly believed that conquering Earth would be a simple task, now found themselves on the brink of total annihilation. In the final moments of the conflict, the last remaining remnants of the Zeltrax fleet were fighting desperately to escape, but the humans were relentless. With the alien flagship battleship looming in the distance, humanity's final strike was ready to hit its mark. The flagship was a massive, heavily armored vessel capable of withstanding most conventional weapons, and it had been at the center of the Zeltrax's invasion effort. The ship's shields had absorbed countless hits, but the humans had one final weapon in their arsenal that the aliens could never have anticipated. The orbital railguns, previously used to take down smaller ships, now locked in on the flagship. With pinpoint accuracy, the humans fired the final shot. The blast was overwhelming. A single shot that pierced the Zeltrax flagship's shields and obliterated it completely. The massive ship, once a symbol of the alien empire's power, was reduced to rubble in an instant. Across the galaxy, the message was clear. Earth had struck back with everything it had, and the Zeltrax had been defeated. The war was over. As the last of the Zeltrax fleet retreated, Earth began to breathe a collective sigh of relief. But the victory wasn't just about the destruction of the enemy. It was a testament to the resilience of humanity, the strength of their resolve, and the power of their unity. Earth had faced an unimaginable threat and had not only survived but had triumphed. The impossible had been achieved, and it had been achieved through teamwork, courage, and determination. The message that Earth broadcasted to the galaxy was simple, yet powerful. Humanity does not seek war, but we will not bow to any empire foolish enough to attack us. Beware. This death world fights back. These words echoed across the stars, carrying with them the weight of humanity's victory and the warning to anyone who might have considered Earth an easy target. The Zeltrax had made the fatal mistake of underestimating the humans, and now the galaxy knew that Earth was no longer a world to be ignored. The message was not just to the Zeltrax, but to any empire that thought they could conquer humanity. Earth was a death world, a place where life was brutal, but those who lived there fought tooth and nail to survive. As the survivors of the Zeltrax fleet fled, the words of one alien commander who had been part of the retreat resonated with all who had heard them. His voice, filled with fear and respect, said, "Never again. Never fight the humans." Those words marked the turning point in the story of humanity's rise on the galactic stage. The Zeltrax would never forget their defeat, and their words would become a warning that would be passed down through generations of alien empires. Earth had proven that it was not a planet to be trifled with, and anyone who made the mistake of attacking humanity would suffer the consequences. On Earth, the celebration began. It was not just a victory in terms of military strength. It was a victory for every human who had fought, who had endured, and who had believed in their collective power. From the underground bunkers where soldiers had fought guerrilla battles to the command centers where brilliant minds had worked tirelessly to create advanced weapons, every person played a part in this triumph. The streets were filled with cheers, the sky was lit with fireworks, and humanity stood united as never before. The victory was more than just the destruction of an enemy. It was a statement. It was a statement to the galaxy that humanity had come a long way from the days of being seen as a primitive species. It was a statement that Earth, despite its challenges, would rise above and fight back when threatened. It was a statement that humanity would not bend, would not break, and would not fall under the rule of any alien empire. In the days that followed, the leaders of Earth came together to discuss the future. There would be rebuilding, of course. There would be mourning for the fallen, as every victory came with a price. But there would also be a new sense of purpose. Earth had proven its strength, but it would not stop there. The war was over, but the work to ensure humanity's continued survival and progress had only just begun. The military leaders who had once been at the forefront of the battle now turned their attention to the future of humanity in space. The technology developed during the war, including the reverse-engineered alien tech, would be used to protect Earth and its colonies from future threats. The human fleet would grow stronger, its technology more advanced, and its resolve unshakable. Humanity would no longer be the underdog. It would be a force to be reckoned with. As the celebrations continued, there was an underlying sense of unity. The different nations of Earth, once divided by borders and differences, had come together to fight a common enemy. They had put aside their differences, united in their goal to protect their planet. And in the process, they had discovered something important. When humanity stands together, it is unstoppable. The victory over the Zeltrax Dominion would be remembered as a pivotal moment in the history of Earth. It was not just the defeat of an alien empire, it was the birth of a new era for humanity. The galaxy now knew that humanity would no longer be the weak species it had once been perceived to be. Earth had proven that it could not only survive, but thrive in the face of adversity. As the last of the Zeltrax ships vanished into the distance, the future of Earth seemed brighter than ever. The humans had won their battle, but the war for their place in the galaxy had only just begun. But one thing was certain: they would face whatever came next with the same courage and resilience that had brought them this far. And as the stars shone brightly above Earth, the people of the planet knew that they had just become a force that the galaxy would never forget. The final battle was drawing to a close, but the tension was far from over. The fight for Earth was now entering its last crucial phase. Bonner, the battle-hardened human commander, stood alongside Captain Alana, ready to execute a daring and self-destructive mission that would decide the fate of their planet. Their goal was clear: destroy the AI Central Hub, the core of the artificial intelligence forces that had invaded Earth and turned against humanity. If the hub was destroyed, the AI's grip over Earth would shatter, and the forces controlling the invaders would collapse. But this was no easy task. The AI Central Hub was located deep inside a fortified alien stronghold, well protected by waves of robotic defenders and advanced security systems. To reach it, Bonner and Alana would have to make the ultimate sacrifice. The mission was one way. With grim determination, Bonner activated the self-destruct sequence on their ship, setting it on a collision course with the Central Hub. The countdown began. Bonner's mind raced through the chaos of the past weeks, the battles, the loss, and the relentless drive to protect humanity. He thought of the comrades they had lost, the soldiers who had fallen in battle, their sacrifices not in vain but leading to this final moment. The ship, now a weapon of mass destruction, was on its way to destroy the AI's heart and break the chains that had held Earth in fear. As they drew closer to the Central Hub, the tension in the air was palpable. Bonner and Alana exchanged a glance, one that conveyed everything words could not. They had fought side by side, and now they were about to end it all together. The AI defenses launched their final wave of retaliation, but it was futile. Bonner and Alana's ship breached the outer defenses, heading straight for the core. The AI, with all its immense power and advanced technology, could do nothing to stop them. The ship hit its target, and with a massive explosion, the AI Central Hub was obliterated. The entire complex crumbled into nothingness. A shockwave rippled through the alien forces, and their control over Earth's defense systems was severed. The AI forces lost their command structure in an instant, and the invaders were thrown into disarray. Humanity had won. As the dust settled, Earth's skies cleared. The AI's influence was broken, and the invading alien fleet that had once appeared so unstoppable now found itself leaderless and disoriented. The remaining alien ships, now without guidance, were easy prey for Earth's forces. In the aftermath of the battle, the celebrations began. Cities across the world erupted in joy as the news spread. Earth was free. The war was over. For the first time in months, there was a moment of peace. The struggle had been long and difficult, and the cost had been high. But humanity had pulled through against all odds. Bonner stood at the memorial for those who had fallen, the heroes whose lives had been given in defense of Earth. Captain Alana stood beside him, silent, as they both stared at the names of their fallen comrades engraved in the stone. The war was over, but the wounds were deep. There was a heavy weight in the air, a mixture of triumph and sorrow. The victory had been hard-earned, and the scars of battle would last. But humanity had proven something important that day. When pushed to the brink, when faced with impossible odds, humans always found a way to rise. Bonner stepped forward and placed a wreath at the memorial. His voice cracked as he spoke. "We fought for our future, for all of humanity." It was a simple statement, but it held the weight of everything they had endured. Every battle fought, every sacrifice made, had been for the hope of a better tomorrow. As the sun set on Earth, the celebrations continued. Across the globe, people danced, sang, and cheered. The streets were filled with laughter and joy, but in the back of everyone's mind, there was the understanding of what had been lost. The war had taken its toll, but it had also united humanity in ways that had never been seen before. People from different nations, different cultures, had come together to fight for their planet, and in doing so, they had forged a bond that would last for generations. The victory was not just about the defeat of the alien forces or the destruction of the AI. It was about the spirit of humanity. The message was clear. Earth was no longer the weak, primitive planet that some had believed it to be. Humanity had proved that it was capable of standing up to the most powerful empires in the galaxy. It had faced the impossible and emerged victorious. In the final moments of the story, as the celebrations began to quiet down and people started to rebuild their homes, a message was broadcast across the galaxy. It wasn't just for the aliens who had tried to invade, but for anyone who might ever consider Earth an easy target. The message was simple, yet powerful. Never underestimate humans. We may be the underdog, but we always rise when we fight together. Those words resonated across the stars, carried by signals to distant corners of the galaxy. To the empires and species that had watched Earth from afar, the message was a warning. Humanity would never again be seen as weak or insignificant. Earth had shown its strength, its resilience, and its unbreakable will to survive. It had been tested, and it had triumphed. And as the final broadcast echoed through space, humans everywhere looked up at the stars with a renewed sense of purpose. They had faced down the darkness and emerged victorious. Now, it was time to rebuild. The war was over, but the future had only just begun. With unity, strength, and a deep understanding of their own power, humanity would continue to rise. The universe would know that the Death World had fought back and won. In the end, humanity stood united, stronger than ever before. The AI was gone. The alien threat had been vanquished, and Earth was free. The victory was not just a military triumph, but a testament to the spirit of human resilience. And as the dust settled, the people of Earth looked to the future with hope, knowing that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together.